You want details? Fine. I drive a Ferrari 355 Cabriolet. What's up? I have a ridiculous house in the South Fork. I have every toy you can possibly imagine. And best of all, kids, I am liquid. So, now you know what's possible. Let me tell you what's required.
lifeadvicerr@gmail.com. We've got a couple here, one very different, so I'm excited about it. This one is a little bit more standard, but it's a bit of a bummer. So we'll try to get through this one. All right, here we go. Not going to give my name. All right, done. No problem. We haven't really been reading them anyway. I'm 35, not a 10, maybe a 7. High 5-figure salary. I could make more if I was willing to move, but I live in the South. Cost of living dirt cheap. High 5 figures here is better than 6 figures in a city. I would agree. I've looked at the real estate. I've been married for 3 years. Dated 5 years of prior marriage. So that's 8 years together. When we started dating, I was going through a divorce. I didn't cheat on my ex-wife with my current wife, but we did start dating before my divorce was finalized. My wife at the time and I were separated after my divorce. We finally eventually moved in together after a few years, got engaged for over a year and married, so we never rushed anything. All right, you didn't. And by the way, I like how you're kind of pointing that out at the beginning, because I just think with divorces, I'm amazed sometimes how over it both parties can be in a divorce where, I've seen people live together, which I think is, look, economically, if you have to pull it off, especially with stuff going on right now, I would rather sleep in a CVS bag than live with a woman I was divorcing.
Terrifying.
Yeah, I just would be like, look, I'll be outside. I'll come by and grab some compression shorts from time to time. But I think sometimes when people can read this stuff, they'll say like, oh, well, wait, are you planting the seed for how you kind of turn? No, you were divorced. You were getting divorced. You started talking to somebody. You mentioned you didn't cheat on your wife. We're going to take you for your word. So, all right, fine. All right. So he says about a year ago, his wife became more distant. We stopped having the fun together that we'd both had. We settled into our routines and didn't involve each other as much, which I think is unfortunately part of marriage. So I don't think that that's super unique, but I get it. Okay. The Monday before Thanksgiving, I was home early and sent her a text message. Her Apple Watch was on the floor and vibrated when I sent the message. Without knowing why, I picked up the watch and looked at her messages. What did I find? No surprise. Messages between her and another man. I read them over. It did not appear there were any sexual relations between them. I confronted her. She admitted that she'd been texting and seen this other man on a couple of occasions. She said they kissed, but nothing more. The communication lasted about a week and a half. Phone records in an unannounced search. So you went in. So he looked at the phone records in an unannounced search through my wife's Facebook Messenger, confirmed this. We separated for a few days while I both cleared our heads and decided what to do next. After talking, we decided to go to therapy and try to make things work. Okay. She said she'd been texting him and met up with him. She said they kissed, but nothing more. When people cheat, I feel like kissed is like code word for, yeah, we didn't just kiss. I'm not trying to bum you out here, but that's been my experience with that. Like, oh, we just kissed. Really? Okay. Unfortunately, a week later, the same scenario happened. All right. So that's a week later. All right. I sent her a text message. Her Apple Watch vibrated. And sure enough, I was looking at the watch again. This time I found out she'd had an 8-month affair with her boss, who was also doing some side work on her house in the basement.
Oh, no.
Oh, man. I didn't suspect the boss initially, which is why I didn't read their messages the first time. When I confronted her with this, she again admitted the truth. She told me I'd become a different person since we married. She didn't think I loved her anymore. The reality is that I battled clinical depression. And after a medication change, I essentially was a zombie for 11 months. I still love my wife very much, but this affair has broken me. She's come clean about everything, but obviously my trust is shattered. The problem I keep running into is that I'm still in love with her and want to forgive her and try to make it work. I've never understood why someone would stay with somebody after they cheated on them, but now that I'm in this situation, I'm looking at it differently. Yeah, she fucked up major, but I also wasn't there for her like I should have been. I checked out for other reasons, which I feel is why this went on so long without me noticing. We were the happiest couple before the past year. I feel like we can get back to that place or maybe even a stronger one. My question is, does my wife just suck, or do I need to try to work on things? Thanks for the advice. Okay. This is obviously very complicated, and it's also you. It's you, and this is a repetitive thing, but I know that there's nothing easier than all of us, every guy listening to this right now, and I'm sure some of the women that listen to the podcast, because she's in the wrong, screw her, bounce. Okay. But none of these people that are giving you this advice or me reading this are emotionally attached to the way you're emotionally attached to the one person. All right. So that goes without saying. That's not super insightful. So any decision here, it can't be about like what you're supposed to do or what the rules are supposed to be. I personally couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. And the fact that there's a guy that she's worked for. So like she had a chance to be truthful about the boss the first time she got busted. So that means she didn't go like, hey, here's the bigger picture thing. she was like, maybe I can get away with this other thing. I don't believe her about the kiss thing because she didn't tell you the truth about the boss the whole time. And honestly, like the fact that this piece of shit guy would be in my house, working my fucking basement while he's also hooking up with my wife. Like, again, I'm not trying to sound like, Mel Gibson ransom here, but I have a real hard time processing these things. Okay. A girl I dated one time, I don't even know if it's true or not, but there was like a maintenance guy that worked in our neighborhood, and I think they might have hung out, and somebody was like, oh, you should have him come by and fix something again. I was like, nah, I don't think so. And they're like, why? I'm like, I don't know. I think there's something happened there. They're like, yeah, but who are you mad at? Like her or the maintenance guy? I was like, yeah, I don't know what to tell you. I was like, I'm just out. He's not doing any maintenance here anymore. I know that. They're like, do you even know if it happened or not? I was like, no, absolutely not. But I'm just going to imagine that it did. And that guy's not coming by to fix my fucking water heater. All right. Yeah. So all right. I'm not paying somebody to fix my water heater that may have been with somebody that I cared about. Don't you understand that? What's wrong with you? So yes, I know that sounds psychotic. So I'm probably not always the best person to ask when it comes to this stuff, because I would have a real hard time with this. So, the boss thing with her, again, he's in your house, man. So that's the part that I have a hard time with. But you went through something real tough here. I can imagine, going through what you went through, and then seeing how, you can see if you're really close enough with somebody who actually changes up their medication, and you can see, some of the stuff you can kind of detach a little bit. You can become a bit of a muted version of yourself. And if that's why she started exploring other things, I think it's cool that you're allowing for yourself to be blamed a little bit here, instead of, all of us as men trying to be tough guys about it and just blame everybody else. But she had an 8-month affair. I think you're giving her too much credit for being honest, because she wasn't honest about the boss the first time around. All right. She tried to get away with that until she got busted again. So I think you should stop giving her the benefit of the doubt as much. And if you're 3 months into a medication change, and then she'd had an 8-month affair, what did she do? Give you 3 months of being a little different before she started exploring other things? That's not great. I'm not saying like, hey, after 12 months of being different, you're allowed to cheat on your spouse, but 3 months, that's too soon. So it's really going to come down to nothing I say or anyone else says. People are going to give you all sorts of advice. There's going to be a lot of people that say, hey, bounce. But if you're going to be more miserable not being with this person, and clearly you need to work on some things, that sucks. Because I think that a lot of times all of us, male, female, have come down to that conclusion where you go, I'm so scared of how sad I'm going to be without this person, even though being with this person is not going to be the same, because it's never going to be the same. You're never going to trust her the way you did before. And I don't know if commend is the right thing. You don't even have any kids. But again, sometimes staying together because of the kids is actually the worst thing for the kids. But, everybody's situation is a little different here. But I'm not saying there are holes here. I just think that as much as I think it's kind of cool that you're also blaming yourself for part of this, you're blaming yourself probably a little bit more than you should, considering it sounds like it was a couple months of you changing the medication, and she decided to start hanging out with the guy that was in your house fixing stuff. So, and like everything, once you move on, I know it seems impossible, but there'll just be magically a day where you don't care anymore. Man, it happens. It's life. You never think you're going to get to that day, and then the day happens, and you're like, wow, I don't care anymore. This is crazy. And then maybe you care for like another year, and you're like, oh, remember that day I thought I didn't care? And then after that year, you actually won't care. And then normally they usually will call you back and be like, hey, thinking about you. And that's why Swingers is one of my favorite movies ever, because they absolutely nailed it. Yeah. Hey, just thinking about you. It's the holidays. Yeah. Were you thinking about me when I was writing a check to your boss for fixing our vents? Okay. Last one. This is, we're noticing more and more fake ones, but the IT team is sifting through these vigorously. So, okay. This is great. This one just made me laugh because it was, all right, here we go. All right, our man, I'm going to use his name because it's too good. Taylor chimes in. He goes, in life, self-awareness is key. I consider myself a pretty self-aware person. I know what parts of my personality to highlight, which ones to lay low. That said, the simple fact is I am super into Dave Matthews Band. I have been since I was 15, and I love them more today at 30 than I ever have. I've seen them 17 times, and to be honest, as far as DMB fans go, that's actually not that many. Here's my problem. I'm self-aware enough to know that being a DMB guy isn't the number one way to make friends. I've yet to meet the person who just loves to taking a conversation in the direction of an extended two-step jam from 1997, or about that time Carter threw sticks into the crowd mid-Rapunzel. But sometimes trying to not paint myself as DMB guy starts to make me feel like I'm suppressing something I'm super into. I just want to share what I love. I want to talk about them. I want to introduce people to them. I want to bring them up. There are a lot more important things that make up who I am, that I talk about regularly, but this is just a fun aspect of me I never bring up. Surely you try to avoid being painted as overly Celtics guy or Tool guy, right? Yet you really love talking about them, I'm sure. How can I talk about them and not become DMB guy? Thanks, Taylor. This sentence, I was cracking up when I read it. This is the third time I've read this, and I keep laughing. I think it's this sentence. But sometimes trying to not paint myself as Dave Matthews Band guy starts to make me feel like I'm suppressing something I'm super into. I just want to share what I love. I want to talk about them. I want to introduce people to them. I want to bring them up. I don't know what happened, Taylor. I'm with you. How come Dave Matthews became like the joke band to bring up? Those guys fucking rock. My Dave Matthews Band history is incredible. And I'm going to share this with you, Taylor, because we're just going to talk about, and everybody else wants to turn off the pod now. Go ahead. I was a high school graduate, Martha's Vineyard. That's 93, heading into UVM. Although I wasn't sure if I was going to go to UVM or St. Mike's. I did both deposit guy. Not privilege. Actually, was expensive and screwed me out of some of my summer earnings. But I wasn't sure I want to go to school. Back then, early 90s, Martha's Vineyard, there was a party literally every single night. There was always some beach or some house or somebody's parents were gone, and you're ready to just go. And music was a big part of those summers. I just was really starting to explore the space musically. And I heard this bootleg cassette tape of this guy singing, and the violin and the acoustic guitar and the whole deal and the horns. And I'm like, what is this? And the guy's like, oh, this is Dave. I'm from Virginia, And I was like, oh my God, what is this? I was like, this is incredible. And I was working at a music store at the time on Martha's Vineyard, right? So I was like, look, man, is there any way I can dub one of these? I was like, I'll give you a discount on CDs. Come into the CD store tomorrow. And we're planning it out. We're high-fiving it. It's all love. And then, of course, like a lot of meetings that are organized over a few Coors Lights, people don't show up for those meetings. So the next day I was like, Dave Matthews Band, huh? So I start researching it while I'm working at the music store, because back then there's no internet. And I found this record company, I think it was Bama Rags, it was. And the Remember Two Things, where you would try to see the cool little hidden scene in the CD cover, that was going to come out later that year. And I got in touch with this guy, Chris, and I was like, this is unbelievable. Like, what is this stuff? And the guy's taking me through the whole thing. It was this whole Charlottesville deal. And this company, Bama Rags, started sending the CDs to me for the the CD shop that I worked at. And I remember the boss who ran the place was like, how many of these did you order? I was like, 5. He's like, he was like, he wasn't like a mean boss. He just was looking at me, eye rolling, be like, you're an idiot. He's like, I can't believe you'd order. Nobody knows who this guy is, whatever. And I was like, all right, fine, whatever. And then I'd gone to school. You had to like find a way to order the recently CD online. It was really hard. But then they started really blowing up my freshman year. I guess being at Vermont, like it's a classic, Fish. Widespread was a big deal. I saw Widespread at a church on campus, but the music was so different. It was just so different. It was artsy, folksy, jazzy. So they became kind of this punchline, like or is a punchline, or is it OAR? I don't know, Kyle. You can help me out on that one.
I'll Google it because I got no idea.
Yeah, there you go. Locked in. I don't know what happened because I saw him again recently with my big man, Eric Chenoweth, who brought me to that show in San Francisco for the Super Bowl when he cut, I think, 15,000 people in line. And no one said anything to him because he's 7'1" plus maybe. And I just walked behind him. And they were incredible again. It's just different. So I think it just became people got so into them that the people that, just like Taylor, who got so into them, then you became kind of a laughing stock. Like you became the joke. And the joke's on the other people, Taylor, that don't appreciate the music. I mean, there are plenty of bands that people like and don't like, but there became this attachment that if you were, khaki shorts,
Birks.
Yeah, Birkenstocks. I don't know, because I'm gonna like there's different looks now, but the big thing for our crew was like the rowing shirt. I think I had one. I didn't go to Choate. I didn't row. I don't even like rowing for like a minute now to warm up. Game hat, Cox, shout out. It's just you became this very, very identical. Like, especially when you're going to college and you kind of like try to reinvent yourself a little bit. And it's like, okay, wait a minute. Everybody's wearing the exact same thing. Like, God damn it. Patagonia vests are sold out. Pete has one and I don't. Pete has 3 Patagonia vests. So maybe that's it. Maybe it's that because the Dave Matthews thing, whether it was back to me and prep school kids and New England college kids, and then it carrying on now for, this is almost 3 decades now, that the person got made fun of more than the band. So to share one more Dave story with you, let's go to 94 fall. I don't know if Under the Table and Dreaming, I think it had just come out. Yeah, September 94. Of course, I knew that immediately. So September 94. So that fall, they were doing their big tour again. And I'd had this background. I kept ordering the CDs special order because during the summer, I would go back. So that meant 94 summer, I would go back. And, it's Martha's Vineyard. I'd play the CD relentlessly in the music show. Every time somebody asked me, what is this? I would hit the tracks for it and they would buy it. We couldn't keep it. We were selling so many of these. I kept getting a special order all the time. From, again, I think it was Chris Bama Rex, shout out. And so that we went to Club Soda in Montreal, and it was all UVM kids and then St. Lawrence kids. And Montreal's unbelievable. It's even better when you're 18 or 19 and you don't care. And the venue was called Club Soda. And, maybe 200 of us are in there. Everybody's pre-gaming, and you would have probably gotten some dumpy hotel right in town and then walked to the venue, maybe taking a cab. I don't know. And because it was still a little warmer, I was wearing sandals, but I wasn't a Birkenstock guy because that was for losers, right? I think it was Tevas. I had to have been. And I don't even know now if they're pronounced Teva or Teva, but we call them Tevas. And clearly we would all been drinking, and I made my way all the way up to the front. And, you're in front, whatever. I actually even remember the girl that I was kind of like dancing with. And so this is me, peak 19, like whatever. And for whatever reason, I think it's because I'd been drinking and it was also just having that much fun because it was just an electric crowd, 200, small place. Dave Matthews even said during the concert, he's like, hey, we're going to be moving to Montreal. And everyone was like, yeah. And no one was from Canada in the crowd. And my right foot started getting really cold. And I was like, what the hell is going on? I looked down and it's covered in blood. It's totally covered in blood. And it's because I'd worn sandals to a fucking concert. And people were drinking. The St. Lawrence kids were out of control. They made UVM kids look like frauds. But St. Lawrence kids were smashing pint glasses on the dance floor. No one really was doing anything because it wasn't like a normal venue. It was a very small spot that sold tickets and people went. So I cut my foot, not bad, but bad enough that it kept bleeding on glass. And then I put my foot up on the front of the stage to look at it. And I was like, ooh, it was all covered in blood. And Dave Matthews in the middle of a guitar solo looks down and is like, hey, are you all right? Are you all right? And I was like, no, I was like, I don't know what's going on. And then he just said, hey, come up on stage. So I get up on stage because he wants to make sure my foot's going to be okay. And I turn around and see all my goon buddies in the back. And now they can't figure out why I'm on stage with Dave Matthews in the middle of a long extended jam. Extended, Taylor. And I look back at them and I start doing an old Doyle Rules thing, hands up in the air. And then I'm thinking, man, this is great. It's the end of the show. I'll be hanging out with these guys backstage, probably become close friends, maybe take a year off, travel with these guys. Who knows? Maybe get a Jeep. And they brought me in the back and there was like a dishwasher who hosed off my foot and then taped it up with a first aid kit Band-Aid. And then because I had to leave the kitchen, I felt bad for that guy. I had to leave the kitchen. I had to go back around the back. So then I lost my spot in the front watching the show. And then that was it. And then ironically, a few days later, we went to go see them down on Lansdowne Street in Boston behind Fenway Park. I forget the name of the place. I don't know if it was Bill's. I don't think it was Bill's. It was a bigger venue than that. And I was walking down the street because we were at some girl's apartment in Kenmore Square and I wanted to go for a walk. And as I was walking through town, I ran into Dave Matthews. I was like, hey, man, what's up? And I was like, I'm Ryan. I was like, I cut my foot. And as I said, I cut my foot. He interrupted me and said, your foot. I was like, yeah, it's me. I was like, yeah, we're UVM guys. We came down. He's like, all right, Ryan, enjoy the show. I was like, all right, thanks, Dave.
See you around.
See you around, buddy. Hey, when I get pretty famous, We should catch up. So that's my Dave Matthews story. So don't apologize for it, man. But I like your self-awareness. I think your whole thing is fine because you don't want to do it all the time. I don't tell that story all the time. I think I've told it twice. Did I tell that story before on this podcast, Kyle?
Never before heard.
I've definitely told it. I think I told it on the air radio once. I'm not sure. Probably not that long. I've said these advice need to be a little bit quicker, but that one's strictly for Taylor. So there you go. I didn't give you really any advice. I just told you a story. But the point is I enjoyed telling you because you appreciated it. So you just got to find the right people. But don't be overbearing about it. People don't want to talk about it. They don't want to talk about it. Not everybody gets it. But don't apologize for it. It's not like you're into Oasis or something. Talk to you Wednesday.